What's up YouTube? Today we're going to be watching how to become a millionaire through real estate investing, and this video was presented by BiggerPockets. I'm a big fan of BiggerPockets. It was one of the first resources that I went to when I first started getting into real estate investing. And I remember Brandon Turner's blog post on this exact same topic that inspired me to start getting into buying real estate. And just a few years later, I became a millionaire through doing this exact strategy. So without further ado, let's hop on in.
First of all, we're talking about buying rental properties, which means you buy a house or maybe a duplex or an apartment building, whatever, and you rent it out. Now, before I walk you through the math behind becoming a millionaire through real estate, I actually want to get us all on the same page or the same board as to the fundamentals about owning rentals and why they're so powerful.
So before he goes on, I want to say that buying rentals is a really stable way to increase your net worth versus the other active income strategies. Because if you're trying to wholesale, if you're trying to fix and flip, you're only as good as your last deal. Whereas with rentals, you own the property for life basically, and you're continuously getting money, getting cash flow, and the property's appreciating in value too. So I really like the strategy because you don't have to think too much and you're not on this crazy timeline to buy a property, fix up, and sell it.
To do that, we're going to talk about something called the 4 wealth generators. All right, so these are the 4 things that really make owning rental properties so awesome, and when they're combined together can make you a millionaire. Number 1 is going to be cash flow.
Cash flow is great because it gives you passive income every single month, whether you're working or not.
Well, that's the extra money every month that a property produces in profit. It's income minus expenses. The key to that, though, is understanding expenses, because they're kind of tricky, right? Make sure you get all the expenses when you calculate it, but basically, this is just the money you're left with in your pocket at the end of every month. Now, number 2, appreciation. This is basically the simple truth that real estate tends to climb over time in value.
A lot of investors, especially those in an expensive market like the Bay Area, actually don't care about the cash flow. They buy properties because of the huge appreciation potential. There are people who bought properties way back in the early 90s for a couple $100,000, maybe $200,000 or $300,000, and now those properties are worth $1.5 to $2 million, which is an enormous return.
Sure, things like 2008 do happen and prices do drop, sometimes a lot, but over time prices tend to climb. As long as you can hold onto a property long enough, you should always see appreciation, and that's why cash flow, which we just talked about a second ago, is so vital, right? Because as long as I'm making cash flow, I can hold onto it as long as I need to, waiting for the property to climb in value.
Again, going back to people who invest in an expensive market, they actually see cash flow as a way to hold on to the property while the property appreciates. Like, they don't actually care about getting that cash flow to sustain their lifestyle. They use the cash flow to pay off all the expenses so they can hold on to that property.
Now, number 3, the loan pay down. Now, normally when you buy a piece of real estate, you get a loan from a bank, which you then pay every month. But the cool thing is, over time, the loan then gets paid down, which means you might start owing, let's call it 200 grand, but eventually you'll own nothing, right?
So even if the property does not appreciate, and even if your net cash flow ends up being $0 after all expenses, at the end of 30 years, you'll own this property free and clear. So if you bought this property for $200,000 and you got a loan for 80% of that, it's $160,000. Then over 30 years, you have gotten $160,000 in equity.
So the loan starts here, and over time tends to drop on what you owe it. And number 4, the 4th wealth generator.
Going back to loan stuff too before we go into taxes. Being able to get a loan means that you can buy more properties with less amount of money, and also magnifies your gains. So if your property appreciated by 20%, if you got a loan for 80% of the purchase price, instead of only getting a 20% return on your money, because you only put in 20% to begin with, you're actually getting 100% return. So getting leverage on real estate is also another huge way that you can increase your net worth.
Tax benefits. Okay, so for the purpose of this video, we're not going to talk a lot about tax benefits, but in real life, man, the tax benefits are huge.
You get depreciation, which means that the value of the structure of the building can be depreciated by 1 out of 27.5 every single year. You could use that to basically wipe out all the gains you got from your cash flow. You get 1031 exchange, which means that you can sell a property for a higher value, but if you use that money to buy another piece of real estate, you don't have to pay taxes on that gains. You can defer it over and over and over again, and then there's a step up in basis. And what that means is when you pass away, your heirs are no longer liable for the appreciation that happened during your lifetime. So if the property appreciated by $800,000 and you passed away, your heirs inherit it. If they sell that property at that price, they don't have to pay taxes on the extra $800,000 of gains that occurred during your lifetime. So they make a lot of money. You know, you defer taxes your whole life by doing 1031 exchange, and then when you died, they haven't paid tax on either. So it's really cool.
If you made 100 grand from real estate and your friend made 100 grand from a job or maybe a business they own, who do you think would end up keeping more money? You would, with real estate, way more money than your friend. All right, so let me show you how these 4 wealth generators can make you a millionaire when combined together. Okay, let's just say you bought a house as a rental property. Maybe you put down 20%, or maybe you found a more creative way to finance it. And you were able to do it with no money down, which is, by the way, is entirely possible. In fact, we've got a ton of content on BiggerPockets all about that. Heck, I even wrote a book on it. But anyway, let's say you bought that house. You bought that house for 100 grand and you put down 20%. So you bought it for the $100,000 value. You put down 20%, which is $20,000 down, meaning you're left with an $80,000 loan, or mortgage as we call it. Now, because you bought a property that has cash flow, the first wealth generator, let's say you're also now, at the end of the day, you're making $200 every month in cash flow, which is $2,400 per year.
So that's your rent minus your mortgage, minus your property management fees, minus your insurance, minus your property taxes, and maybe a little bit of reserves for maintenance fees. So at the end of everything, you still net $200 into your pocket.
We'll call it $2,400 per year in cash flow. You're a millionaire. Just kidding. No, but this is where it starts, right? All right, so after 1 year,
$2,400 a year may not seem that exciting, but if you look at the numbers here, you only really put in $20,000. So $2,400 over $20,000 is a 12% return, which is actually pretty cool.
You've now made $2,400. Good for you, right? But there's more to that, right? Because during that time, your loan balance dropped from owing like $80,000. That's actually dropped down because over time the loan gets paid down, right? So you started at 80, but in fact, after that time, you only owe about $78,500. So you've made about $1,500 just on loan pay down. But at the same time, prices tend to go up on average. So where the property was worth $100,000, you now, after 1 year, will say on average 3% appreciation, it's now worth $103,000.
So it's all these different things combined, right? You put in $20,000, you're getting $2,400 a year from the cash flow, you're paying down and getting basically $1,500 of equity, and you got $3,000 from the appreciation. So after all said and done, you're getting around $7,000 of total return from buying this one property. And $7,000 divided by $20,000 is around 35%. So a 35% return is insane.
So let's add all that together, right? So you've added $3,000 in value here, you've added $1,500 there, and $2,400 in cash flow. So really, during the first year, you've now $6,900. You've actually added $6,900 to your net worth.
I did it all in my head.
Now, of course, you're not a millionaire yet, but over time, the cool thing is that this process speeds up. You start paying off more and more of the loan faster and faster, and the value of that property goes up as well. In fact, if you look here, the property value getting paid down, the other one going up. If we were to erase this, and we try to draw it on one graph, you can see that over time, the value of the property, we'll call this the value of the property, was at, we'll call it $100,000. It's climbing in value 3% per year. But the loan, which was at $80,000, is actually going down.
I love these charts where it's like skyrockets like this. It's like an exponential graph curve. Same thing with the way that it goes down, like your loan payment gets paid down exponentially faster too. And on top of that, your rents are increasing. So everything is just compounding in your benefit.
Each year as well. This spread right here is known as equity, and this increases over time the longer you hold it. In fact, here by year 10, it's actually worth about $130,000, but you only owe about $60,000 on the property, which means just alone there, you've got about $70,000 in equity. Add on the fact that that's over 10 years, right? Over 10 years, you've also made $2,400 a month in cash flow every single year, or $2,400 a year in cash flow, which is another $24,000.
And it's more because your properties are actually appreciating by 3% compounded. So after 10 years, you're not at 130,000. It would probably be even higher than that, maybe 140. And it's not just 2,400 a year because again, your rents are increasing. And as your rents increase, your fixed expenses like your mortgage doesn't move. So you're actually making more and more in cash flow.
So by this point, you've gotten $94,000 in wealth built from that one property. Now I know a lot of you are thinking 10 years of work and you only made 100 grand? That's gonna take me 100 years to get to $1 million. Well, here's the cool thing. This is just one simple, cheap little property. I mean, once you figured out how to do one deal, you can do another and another and another.
And that's exactly what we did. We just kept buying another and another and another.
And furthermore, you don't have to stay small with a $100,000 house. In fact, what if you were to buy a $500,000 small apartment complex or even a $500,000 house? The same principles apply. Over time, the value tends to go up and the loan tends to get paid down. So you're paying off a little bit more every month and adding a little bit more in value every single month. And you're getting wealthier. And that is how you become a millionaire through rental properties. You buy cash flowing rentals that increase in value over time while also paying down the loan. A little bit at a time, you're becoming wealthier.
Another way to supercharge this is to buy a property at a discount in the first place. So instead of buying a property at $100,000, what if you're able to get it for $80,000? By doing this, you're just instantly getting equity every single time you buy a property. It helps you out even more.
Now, a couple concerns you might be having. Number one, how do I come up with all these down payments if I'm going to buy a bunch of rental properties? Well, in the beginning, maybe you'll save up for the down payment. But honestly, I built my entire portfolio using some other creative strategies, things like house hacking or BRRRR investing or using partners or raising private money. Maybe you'll fix and flip houses and use the profit from those flips to invest in rentals. There's a lot of ways to put together a deal, but the bottom line is if you have a good deal, you're going to figure out a way to finance it. Now, what about number three? How do you manage all these properties? Well, the short answer is you don't. I mean, you could, but for most of my properties, I hire a property manager to look after them.
We hire property managers for every location that we're a part of as well, because I'm okay with paying the 8 to 10% per month so that I don't have to do that job.
Of course, you still got to manage your manager. It's not 100% hands off, but they're the ones getting the late night phone calls, not you.
They're also the ones handling tenant evictions and all that good stuff.
All right, and question number 4, what if the market drops? Well, that's why I buy cash flowing rental properties. If the market drops, great. I'll just keep holding on to them and I'll buy more properties because now everything's on sale.
Just make sure that the rents make sense and that you're buying a location that people won't just leave. So if you're buying like a super hot, trendy area and you're charging premium rents, if the market crashes, there's a good chance that that property won't be occupied anymore. The person living in that property may not be able to afford the rent and they might just leave. Then you're stuck with a large mortgage payment and it's going to be all bad. But if you're buying in, a B to C class neighborhood where people do need to live no matter what, then even if there's a market crash, they're still going to need a place to live. They're still going to make their rent payments and you're just going to make your obligations to your lender and all that stuff.
You know what? You can become a millionaire through real estate. I did it in under a decade. Yeah, it's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen if you're patient, you stick to sound principles, and you continually educate yourself on how to become better.
So that was an easy blueprint on how to become a millionaire through real estate. Again, I use almost the exact same method to become a millionaire in a really short amount of time. We're now in millions of dollars of debt, but we also have millions of dollars in equity because the properties have appreciated so much during this whole time frame. I want to know your thoughts. If you believe this is a feasible strategy to become a millionaire, what are your challenges with real estate? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you guys enjoyed this video, please do me a huge favor and like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much. Take care.